Welcome to Daddy's Podcast.
This is the Redefining Plastics Podcast. Welcome to the Redefining Plastics Podcast. My name's Justin Riney. I've got a fun one today. Somebody I've been working with a lot lately, Walter Reiter with the EPS Industry Alliance. How are you today, sir? Welcome to the show. Why don't you give the folks a little bit of your background, who you are,
Okay.
and what is EPSIA?
All right. Well, Justin, thank you very much. I've been looking forward to doing this. And since I learned that you did it, my first reaction was, I want to do that. So thanks for having me on. Yeah, background is always a good one because I'm sure a lot of people say that they've been everywhere. But literally and figuratively, I've been everywhere. And now I'm at the EPS Industry Alliance and have been here since 2010. And this, frankly, it's a phenomenal fit and I love it. It is, so my background is I have a biology degree from undergrad, and the reason I probably didn't continue with the science is it wasn't organic chemistry, it wasn't physics, it was calculus.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people who can't do the calculus, they wind up going to law school, which is where I did. Because and I was at University of Maryland, where I'm from. My family is from Baltimore, and they've been in the Baltimore area for a while. So pretty good roots there, loyal Baltimorean. As a matter of fact, my wife and I were in a bowling league, and it's duck pins. Duck pins is unique to Baltimore. And what's interesting about duck pins, and you'll have to Google it,
I'm going to have to, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
But there's never been a perfect game, which is, I think, fascinating. So hopefully Google will bear me out that there's never been a perfect game. That's one of the things. That's Tuesday night, and everybody here knows that Wednesday morning is either going to be really good or wrenching teeth. So that's what we're doing. And Polly runs an interior design firm. And thankfully with my background, I am good at carrying tile and, moving carpets, doing the emergency furniture deliveries because the client needs it done by Thanksgiving dinner, and things happen. So that's one of my skills. And after law school, what I liked about the legal world and law practice was litigation. So I did that for quite a long time. My first law firm job was doing insurance defense, and insurance defense is sort of trench litigation. So everybody's got insurance, and one of the things that you get from that is an insurance company will pay for your defense. And businesses have insurance, same kind of deal. And my first specialty that I developed was workers' comp, which absolutely fits me really well because it's just seat of the pants litigation. And there's no discovery, there are no motions, you just go in, and in Maryland, it's an administrative hearing, but it's the real rules of evidence and everything applies, except you just don't have discovery, which that's your interrogatories, depositions, etc.
It's all the paperwork, right? Like all the,
and very little paperwork. But the comedy value of workers' comp is just off the charts. Anyone who's, you've probably gotten a traffic ticket and sat in district court, and you list people's lives unravel or unfold in front of you, however you want to describe it. Well, that's workers' comp. And your cases may be hilarious and the other guy's cases may be hilarious. And you've got one of the things that was really entertaining was video surveillance. You tell the other guy that you had video surveillance, or when I worked for claimants for the injured worker, you had to prep your guy to be able to spot when it became apparent that there was videotape of you putting up your Christmas lights or pushing a broken truck up a gravel driveway. And then you try to fix it that was a good day. I was on a lot of medication at the time. and just, so that was really, really enjoyable. Hung a shingle, did commercial litigation with my brother-in-law, employment law. I got my patent bar, so I've got experience there. And the science degree qualified me for that. And actually, I got here because in 2008, I was working for a firm that was representing a lot of builders and developers. And that world imploded. And, one of the, I should have seen it coming, because there were, it was 3 cases that should have been settled. And for some reason, the clients wanted to roll the dice and take it to verdict. So, which is great. I mean, it's, time on my feet. I'm racking up my billables. It's fantastic. We're doing trials. But what I didn't realize is that they didn't have an option but to take
They didn't have the money.
No one
Getting
had
it settled.
money. So, got to take 3 cases to verdict. And then the big boss, he's like, great work, fantastic. Everybody's really happy, but we can't pay you. You can stay, but we can't pay you anymore. And one of the last cases I did, so our director here, Betsy Bowers, phenomenal, powerful.
Just absolutely, yeah.
Just,
Scary if you're on the other side, but
oh, come on.
Just great at what she does.
Well, and she'll, yes, agree 1,000%. And the intangibles that I get to see here are really impressive. And like, I couldn't spot when the writing is on the wall with builders and developers. She would have seen the writing on the wall, and she would have figured it out. So one of the last cases that I did was actually for Betsy's husband, who's passed away. And he and I became very good friends, and he frankly was the best client I ever had. And we had a very, very good result. And he was just a great character, and really miss him. But anyway, that's when he said, when that all was unfolding, he said, well, you should, talk to my wife. And boom.
And here you are.
Yeah. So I came in, and I originally did the legal work, did the corporate stuff. And then also was assigned to the technical committee, where, according to Jim Whalen, one of the very experienced, and he's since retired, Jim Whalen characterized my job description as note taker. Great, because I learned a lot, took a lot of notes. That was a lot of ASTM, material development standards, and doing the water absorption and long-term thermal resistance. And, but also from the legal standpoint, that dipped into flame retardant and our legacy flame retardant, hexabromociclododecane. And so I did get through organic chemistry 2 semesters. So 101 and 102 on the first shot. Didn't crush it, but I am comfortable pronouncing long organic chemical names.
Yeah. I am not. I don't even try.
And I know there's a difference between something that ends in ANE or ENE, and that's probably about all you need. And I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I think what surprises people, and my nieces and nephews are all grown now, and got spouses, and when and it's one spouse I'm thinking of in particular, when she found out that I work for the plastics industry, knowing, kind of what I do in my off time and my pretty much low sustainability, my low GWP profile and everything, and my love of the outdoors and all those sort of no impact activities, and stream cleanups, and the wetlands ecology, and just the real love of the outdoors and the nature and all that. She just about wet her pants when she figured out that I work for the plastics industry.
Yeah.
and still really can't get over it. But with the science and with that sort of practicality and also the time doing litigation, which if nothing, it just kind of shows you the vagaries of decision making and the difficulty in trying to come to some sort of sensible mutual conclusion, and you just never know. There was one case I was doing, and so everybody has a hired expert. You hire a doctor comes in and says, this person's a basket case because of this injury. The other guy says, this person, it's all made up. It's from something else. And I've actually, it was a witness on the stand. The guy on the other side was trying to cross-examine her to get her to state to the jury that she didn't go to a regular doctor. She went to the doctor that the lawyer sent her to. And she couldn't figure out what the guy was saying. And finally, she stops and she says, "Oh, you mean the Sue doctor?" "Yeah, her lawyer sent her to the Sue doctor." Okay, this is going in an interesting direction. And so then when the Sue doctor got on the stand, I was able to watch this guy establish that the Sue doctor didn't really treat anybody. The Sue doctor just prepared evaluations, and that was it. And the guy was trying to say it's not a real treating doctor. It's just a person that works with the lawyer. And the lawyer who was cross-examining, he had all of the bling and all the marketing stuff that this Sue doctor prepared. Cards, pens, bags, all this stuff promoting him as a medically evaluating Sue doctor. So in that case, and I forget exactly how it went, but the claimant, the person, got money, and I'm riding in the elevator down with the jury. And I was like, "So what did you think about?" I watched that case, and what did you think about the two doctors? And the woman says, "Well, now we like that one doctor because he just did evaluations, and that's all he did. So we felt that he had a more valid point and made a better argument than that doctor who also treated people." Which was like,
doesn't make a lot of sense, but okay.
like, all right. And that's kind of and I think we see that all the time in what we're doing and trying to, and you never know. What you were saying earlier, you never know how it's going to be received.
Not at all. It's like I can give the same story to two different people. Let's say just EPS, for example. It's 98% air. You go from EPS to molded fiber. You're going to increase your weight. You're going to increase your GHG emissions. Some people will understand what I'm talking about. The other people will not get past the fact that I'm talking about polystyrene.
Yeah.
They heard polystyrene and they immediately shut down because they're afraid of it. And it's just, it depends on who you're talking to, what drives them. You have to be really good at reading how educated people are on whatever topic immediately when you walk in the room. You have to ask like certain leading questions to see like what information you can get out of them. And if you don't get good information back, you're like, okay, I got to start from scratch here.
So, like, what's your experience? Because I do recycle drop-offs for EPS, and I had 2 this weekend, and one at University Park and one at Laurel, of course, double booked. And there's a volunteer that works the University Park, and she's extremely knowledgeable, but she is such a plasticator. So what's your experience with kind of identifying, I don't want to call it an open mind, but it is sort of that. And it's, possibly maybe giving up some of your plastic bad, paper good
Yeah.
section.
I don't know if there's an easy way to identify that. I think ultimately I'm good at reading people's faces. I used to play a lot of poker when I was younger. Like, I'm really good at reading reactions. Like, so if I say to somebody who I work for and I see a twitch or I see like kind of a pullback immediately, then I know what I'm dealing with. And then I know how to communicate with that person. Like, hey, plastics aren't everything that you think they are. Like, it's actually a better ecological decision in some cases. And so then you have to kind of start from scratch and like talk about why plastics. It's the why of plastics because
Okay.
it's an emotional discussion with those folks.
So the why plastics thing, and if you think about the development and some of these ideas, they're not researched or founded or anything, but is there any truth to the notion that the ability to make materials out of the carbons that are coming out of old dinosaurs and old organic material, the miracle and the ability to make durable, usable materials, from like the guy that made Bakelite
Yeah.
to
All
all
the
the
way
way
back.
forward.
Yeah.
The that was basically driven by challenges to commodity movement and material movement that came with World War II.
Part of it. Yeah.
And this solution that, oh my gosh, we just figured out how to make something solid and usable because we had to, and we're making it out of stuff that we pull up out of the ground, and we're making fuels and lubricants, but there are more carbons left over, and we just figured out how to make stuff out of
Yeah.
that.
They
Is
were
that
trying to completely tap all of what they were making because if you're making gasoline, you have a lot of that barrel of oil left over. So you
okay?
got to figure out what you're going to do with it. And or if you got natural gas, the story's not quite the same, but
Okay.
when you crack it, it does have a lot of different products that come out of it. So you can make a lot of different chemicals that go into a lot of different things. So the glasses that I have on right now, they are faux tortoise shell made out of polycarbonate. That was the main reason why plastics became a thing. It was to make billiard balls out of
Okay.
something other than ivory and to make glasses out of something other than actual tortoise shell.
So tortoiseshell glasses were
They were
actually
actual
made
tortoise
from
shell.
tortoises.
Yeah, at one point.
Okay.
So
'Cause-
that was it was done for a good reason at the beginning. And now you can make the argument that there's too much plastics being produced, or maybe there's too much packaging, or some certain things. Like, I do think that we consume too much. Like, you and I are both outdoorsmen. We love nature. We don't need a bunch of plastic packaging, paper packaging, metal packaging. We can reduce a lot of what we consume. Yeah, I'm not here to just help the bottom line of the plastics industry. Some of the stuff we're doing, we don't need to do. But the stuff that your alliance protects, there's nothing else out there that does what your product does
Well,
in the way that it does it.
and and then when I do plant tours, and I love the plant tours, and I get to travel all over the country, and I'm taking legislators and staffers into the plants.
No better way to change hearts
Oh
and
my
minds than
gosh,
doing that.
it's and some of the things that we might, if we go to too many plants, we forget that you walk into an EPS molding facility, and you get a bigger whiff of chemicals walking by a nail salon
Yeah,
than you're
it's
going
true.
in one of these, a molding facility. And you forget just the miraculous nature of this, that this thing that comes in a super sack that looks like table sugar, is then steam and pressure made into something that you can put under a runway and land a 747 on.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely 95, 98% air, unbelievable. And then you take the staffer, legislator, the visitors over to the grinder where it's like, yeah, these are scraps. They're stuff that come back from our customers. It's things that the, community are dropping off, and we put it
Yeah.
in the grinder and we make it back into material. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. And you sit there and you just think, well, everything should be made of this. Because of that yield rate from what was used to how it's incorporated back into product. And then, the stuff that isn't quite the right size to go back in the hoppers and be incorporated as regrind into new product, gets densified. Okay. And that densified ingot goes off to other plants that I've been to where it's made into new resin, feedstock, raw material, where it goes on. And then the screen, the filter on that densifier collects this little cullet of much harder kind of, really looks like glass. And that goes into a wheeled Gaylord, and that's going to somebody to get made into something is more feedstock.
Yeah.
And it's that, and invariably I show the legislator staffer, we go through that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Then what kind of hurts is they'll say, you all really need to do a better job telling this story.
Honestly, I love what you guys do. You guys do a great job of protecting your industry. I think the marketing side of it is tough though, because you're small. Like, you guys are not a big association. You don't have millions of dollars to put in, and that's kind of what we need if we really want to make an impact from like a consumer, your neighbor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That perspective.
Yeah. And what's kind of weird is you've got, so the volunteers, and I didn't mean to say anything negative about the volunteer who's really responsible.
And I don't think I took that as a negative. I think that's just, that's her perspective, and it's common. I talk to people like that all the time.
But she's doing a great job.
Yeah. She's collecting this material. Yeah.
Every month and it's not that far away. So, they'll have a volunteer who's on their way over to Annapolis anyway, or, so it's not its own trip. And they get it here, and it goes from here, to somewhat nearby Leola, Pennsylvania, where it's made, grind either through the grinder or through the densifier. And there's some great pulls that are going on right now. Great progress the resin manufacturers are doing with recycled content, and those pulls are going to be supporting all of that. And, as so I've got University Park and Laurel. They were the two communities that were this weekend or last weekend. This weekend coming up, I got Greenbelt, and I'm really proud. I got Hyattsville. And these are all suburban municipalities right around DC. And you kind of got that combo of commitment, capabilities, and you got to have a little bit of open-mindedness, because they are saying, okay, there is an option. Now, if you ask those folks, well, what should we ultimately do? Get rid of it. It needs rebanned.
Everybody.
And then it's But what they learn in that contact that I get to have, and there's no substitute for standing there with a person saying, I can recycle this. This looks similar, but it's different. And this, I'm sad to say, is right now either a landfill or an advanced recycling, and I can't give you a good resource for that. So as I said multiple times at the University Park event, those people are trained up and they
Yeah.
know, and they're really good. And the contamination rate is like nothing. And so I have family all over. I've got family in the Netherlands, and I tell this story all the time. My nieces and nephews were little, and so they have the wonderful depot system, and you can just put it in your cargo bike or walk there or take a car if you have to. You don't have to, because in the Netherlands, you don't need a car. And you go down to the recycle drop off, the depot, and it's, and there's a place for your EPS transport packaging. There's a place for your flexibles. I don't know what else is there. And, donation drop offs, and it's a drive through, and it's staffed, and it's beautiful, and it works great. But also they've got curbside. And they have at the end of, it's not immediately curbside, it's, half a block away, where they'll have the recycle containers buried kind of under the sidewalk. So there are these big bins that live underneath of these big access grates. And everything gets separated: white, brown, or clear brown, green, everything has its own pile. They've got food waste, they got everything. My nieces and nephews were still little, and I put something in the wrong bin. You would have thought I murdered their cat. They lost it. And they knew that because they're playing what goes in which bin at their preschool. So
Which is, that's unheard of here.
yeah,
The amount of times I talk about how important and necessary it is for young Americans to understand the waste industry, like a MRF, going into a MRF and seeing the material being recovered,
mhm.
or even going to your local dump. Like, it's not a fun thing, but at the
What?
same time, you want to know where
It's
your
massively
material
fun.
goes.
I was there this morning.
Yeah,
I go
it's
Mondays. I don't have to show my ID. I got my sticker. Michael is the guy that is at the gate. We caught up a little bit, and somebody pulled behind me. So, I am there a lot. And so there's the convenience, there's the place where you go if you have a pickup truck, and then there's back into the cells, back into where they're doing it. People need to go there.
yeah.
And I was talking with one of the workers last week when I was at the dump, and he had a really cool suggestion that the dump should become a multi-use location now, before it's finished and covered in dirt and turned into a golf course or a park.
Yeah.
It needs to be multi-use right now. Bird watching, wildlife, mountain biking, hikes, etc.
You mean like to draw people there so they
Yeah.
can actually see what's going
Yeah.
on?
See it, experience. I mean,
Because now it's like throw it away and it's away and I don't even think about it again.
Yep.
And if people actually went and saw where that away was
Mhm.
and what goes into managing that and how important it is to manage that properly, and then you start to think about, do I need to make as much waste as I do?
Yep. So
That's the natural progression here. It's not
Yeah.
that hard.
and it's so we got to participate in the UN Global Plastic Treaty. I'm so glad we got to do that, and such a wonderful experience. And again, really having that, so we're trying to educate people on these one little, very tiny little aspect of what we do and what we're familiar with and what we know. And you think that that's everything. Everything has that same level of complexity,
Exactly.
which is just mind-boggling.
And you've got like 15 to 20 people trying to get time with every one of those regulators or UN ambassadors or whatever. And they're all giving conflicting information. And so it's like, if you are somebody like that, how do you sort through and figure out what's true and what's not?
It's
hard.
Well, and the thing so all the countries get to make their opening statements. And I was, taking notes and writing down, and there were 160 some opening statements. 3 people said something about consumption. Which, I mean, at the UN, I would think, okay, you can, all right, I get it. You're at the Chamber of Commerce. You're not going to go stand up and go, oh, we need to buy less stuff and we need to make less and we need to, not buy a new car, not get new televisions, et cetera. That may not go over at the Chamber of Commerce, but at the UN,
You would
I
think
would
so.
think that'd be a little bit more receptive.
Yeah, I think I bash Americans a lot. I'm going to do it again. I don't really care. I think the reason why people focus so much on certain green issues, we'll just call it that. So they'll focus on plastics, for example.
Yeah.
It's because they don't actually want to change anything in their lives. They want to continue consuming in the same way that they are. They want to continue wasting in the way that they are, but they want to feel good about it. So they need that one thing that they can hammer home on. And then I know some people will come back and be like, well, what about microplastics? What about this? What about that? It's like, okay, yeah, there's something to be said there. But at the same time, just because you go from plastics to molded fiber to package your appliance, you haven't made any positive difference.
No.
And that's the part is tough to get through to people.
Well, so we have a drop-off bin here, and we empty the bin all the time, a couple times a day. And now that I've been promoted to this lofty position and we have more personnel, I don't have to do it that much, which is great. But a lot of times you're down there helping somebody, and clearly they just bought a 96-inch flat screen.
Yeah.
And they're complaining about the packaging. And it's like, dude, you just bought 30 pounds of e-waste.
Yes.
And
that is not going to get recycled in the U.S. for the most part. Some of it will.
Yeah.
But all the heavy metals in there and everything else.
Yes. And when I started
not to bash the TV industry, but at the same time, you don't need 7 of them in your house.
But they're only like $180. And it's
now,
our deal day or whatever. I'm buying one.
It's just if we really want to make it change, if we really want to make things better, we have to start with the amount of crap that we buy.
And that's really hard because let's start with the crap you buy.
Yeah.
But my stuff,
I need that stuff.
I mean, we get that with the speculative accumulation. And okay, love my wife, but she can look at a room that's cluttered and she can identify the kayak paddle over in the corner. Why do you have so many kayak paddles? Looking over top of
everything else.
I don't know. But it's moderate.
Yeah.
And I think we all have that.
We do.
We all have that. And it's, and we see it with and we need people, oh God, my neighbor has a great term for it. It's like the motivated zealot or something.
Yes.
But it's, and that person who is, testifying in support of a ban on EPS used for dock floats. And there should never be unencapsulated EPS or anything.
Yes.
At the dock float.
I was talking to the ocean. There's an ocean plastics cleanup group that I was working with the other day, and we were finding homes for them on the material they're collecting up in Alaska.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, you can just make this right back into a dock float, not thinking that it was unencapsulated to begin with. And he's like, no,
Sure.
we don't want that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then we started talking about it. Like, well, you know what? Now that we've talked about this, I don't want that either. Let's
Yeah.
get that into something else. Let's send that down to the continental US and we'll find another outlet for it.
Yeah. So, and with the, so right now, New York's got a dock float ban. It's, and we've worked with the other states and kind of making the legislation work. And what they'll start with is EPS. And what I say to them, like, okay, there's other foam plastic positive flotation that you don't want to push everybody into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's broaden it. Let's make it all particle foams, something. And then the next thing is you're probably talking about a body of water where the Corps of Engineers has jurisdiction and the permitting authority. And if you take a look at their permit application process, it does require encapsulation. It's in the expedited permit, and I am having trouble getting the most current for all the regions, but the one that I have, I forget which, I think it's the Pacific Northwest. And in talking with that office, they're like, yeah, we're going to update it, whatever. I'm like, did you realize the version you have is whatever, 12 years old? Like, yeah, we're updating it. But it's called the expedited permit process. So I asked them, is there a long form permit process? Because I want to check that. And they said, well, frankly, I don't think anyone's ever used anything but the expedited form, which I get it.
Yeah. It's
They
easier.
didn't even have a form for me to look at. But the expedited permit process has a requirement that your positive flotation has to be encapsulated. Okay. So do that.
Yeah.
First off,
Just
you're probably going
enforce,
to have to do it anyway.
enforce the law that's already there rather than
Yeah, or
writing
just,
another one.
actually, it's probably, I think, so the New York State, I get it. There's a lot of lakes and things like that. And I'm sure there's,
And we want to keep them clean. We don't want them to
and
be
no, and you
wasteful.
absolutely do not want that to happen. But so there'll usually be testimony in support, and the testimony will usually be someone who is sitting in their polyethylene rotomolded kayak observing particles floating in the water. It's kind of, yeah, it's paper good, plastic bad, but of course I like my plastics.
Yeah.
And then one of the things, so I like to sail, and I've got a laser, which is a small one-person boat, because nobody wants to go sailing with you ever. I don't care how big your boat is. And the other one is, it's a Hampton One Design. It's wood. And this one was built quite a while ago by a friend of mine, by his father-in-law. And the amount of plastic, and I'm talking paint, I'm talking fiberglass, I'm talking gel coat, I'm talking all that stuff, varnish, sandpaper, that goes into keeping that wooden boat floating is, it actually, it's about 2 milk crates of stuff a year.
Yeah.
The more plastic boat, nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole picture of the impact that is lost. And then the emotion comes in, and you had touched on it. People want to feel good.
Yeah.
And then I think one of our challenges is you can't, if this is the chosen path for a person to feel better about their existence and consumption, particularly like folks in my area, they've been around. I mean, they have maybe, been to a place that doesn't quite have the material that everyone in this country has access to.
Yeah.
And, with the UN Global Plastic Treaty, I got to go to Africa. And it's, and then, I do these drop-offs. I go to the dump. And if you took some of that material that's being dropped off, that's going into, because the recycle vents always have electronics. People are dropping off, drills that don't work anymore. Might just be a switch, which is good. Someone's going to maybe try to fix that in a lot of other places. And those ubiquitous white, outdoor chairs, are they PVC? I don't even know what they are.
I don't know what those are made out of, to be
But
honest.
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Zillions of them. And I get it. Somebody leaned back on it, the leg bent and broke, boom, I'm throwing it out. In Nairobi, there would be a stick and string and maybe some tape, and there'd be a new leg. And that would be,
yeah.
And it's Route 3 right out here. I watch Route 3 up and down all day long. Won't even talk about, the tire tread and the microplastics that are coming off of that. But then, but how to you come into that and then you've got, people and microplastics, that's a concern. Who knows? And it's this big, vague thing. And how do we fix it? Well, I don't know, but I know we can ban that EPS transfer packaging. So I'm going to support that.
Yeah.
And
it's like the lowest common denominator. I think there's a couple things. There's the ubiquitous nature of the product. Like it's in everything. When you get any kind of appliance delivered to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people look at that and they're like, well, that's waste. But honestly, if it wasn't in that package to begin with, that product would have delivered to you as waste. It would have been destroyed.
Yeah. Right.
There's a reason why we use it. And because it's right in people's faces, and they're starting to equate with, hey, this is just a lot of stuff that I've got to find a home for when I get it delivered, and I'm being told that you can't recycle it. Of course, people are going to be like, well, let's just get rid of it. Let's put something in there that can be recycled. What they don't know is all of your members are recycling this. Every day, 31%.
And it's so we're a minor form of a minor resin.
Yeah.
In the whole, big picture of plastic production, as you know. And
I know that all too well, and it's getting smaller.
And it's, so, and then, you're labeled problematic and unnecessary, and they're replacement materials, and there's never an assessment of the net.
Yeah.
And, because the extended producer responsibility is pushing everyone into it's either going to be recyclable, reusable, or compostable. And what's frustrating to me is so there's recycling. That's got its challenges. For us, it's a collection.
Yeah.
All of that. And part of that collection challenge is created by the fact there's not that much of it.
Yeah.
So, but then you look at what the regulators and legislators and the public are willing to do, the aspirational aspect of the reusable, refillable, and let's just talk about that because compostible's got its own challenges. But none of that infrastructure exists either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do have it. It just came up this morning on a chat GPT, my Monday morning report. And it identified for me recycle events and drop-offs. I have 10 states that I've got on my watch list, and they pop up and say, oh, recycling events, pop-ups, all that. So it's doable. And that is probably an appropriate way to do it. And I like what you were saying about, hey, everyone needs to become much more familiar with the MRF and the waste handling. And it's that kind of hands-on, this I need to take here.
Yeah.
And that citizen
personal responsibility, I think is a big part of it.
But then you need to couple that with a convenience factor that's based in reality.
I agree with that. You
And
can't have these people driving 30 miles because if you're driving 30 miles anyway, you're offsetting any kind of recycling you're doing from a GHG perspective by driving there.
I had a guy come up from Patuxent Naval Air Station, which is not close. And he was in a big SUV and he was dropping off his foam. And, I hope you were coming up here for some other reason. And then he was telling me about the sustainable bio-based jet fuel that they're testing. It's just like, there's just, so you're taking some ag product, forcing it into aviation fuel.
Yeah, I think that's a different argument because food insecurity is going to be a bigger problem than anything else in about 15, 20 years if we keep growing at the rate that we're growing from a population perspective.
Yeah.
But for EPS specifically, the amount of times that I've talked to brands, and we talked about this last week when we met, and they'll say, well, EPS is on a list, so we need to get out of it. And we're going to go to EPP or EPE. And I'm like, okay. First off, it's heavier, so you're going to use more of it. Second off, there's no recycling of that.
No.
The problem is still the same. The collection is still the same because of the size, the bulky nature of it. And there's actually a system that's already developed to collect EPS. And if you put EPP or EPE in there, that becomes a contaminant. Mm-hmm. So really, you're making the situation worse.
Yeah.
If you go to those. And I'm not trying to bash polypropylene or whatever. They're trying to make money in the same way that everybody else is. They think they're doing the right thing by making this foam because they got brands telling them they got to get out of EPS. Problem is, the unintended consequences of that, they're going to an inferior product that's not going to get recycled, and then it contaminates the system that's already there.
Yep. And then as we're seeing the EPR fees come in.
Just insane.
And who knows, and we're not really sure how those materials that don't have the nascent recycling infrastructure that EPS has, how they're going to be treated from a fee basis.
Yeah.
And I was working through this and trying to figure out where the eco-modulation, how it's going to treat that and how they prevent the perverse incentive of people picking something that has more challenges and is not performing as well in the recovery and recycling to save a few pennies. And I see it in, I have no way to say, oh, okay, well, this piece of non-recycled, this piece of contaminant was selected by this producer in order to gain favor with their customer base. I don't know that, but
because you don't know what package it came out of, and like if we could track it all the way back to that, we could make that statement. Problem is, when it comes in, it's just block foam. It's not even, you don't have a box there to say what that came out of or anything like that.
Right. This extended producer responsibility is going to be fascinating as it plays out.
Think about this lawsuit in Oregon.
Oh, actually, it was on I think there was, they extended the deadline to answer the complaint to Friday, and I'm going to be checking it today.
Yeah.
I think there's another legal concept that's going to be playing out, and it's a concept of impossibility. And it's very subtle, and it's what it basically prevents, and it's based on due process, and it prevents legislators or regulators under Administrative Procedure Acts from creating something that cannot be accomplished.
California SB 54?
Right. And part of it is, so some of it, there are examples of it that go to civil rights where, okay, in order to be able to vote, you have to pass a test. And one of the questions on the test is, how many bubbles in a bar of soap? What's wrong? I can have a test, right? And anyway, that's sort of somewhat of an example of this impossibility. And one of the challenges that's been created is there are essential players in these extended producer responsibility programs that are not part of the regulated community that have no reporting requirement. So if we are expected to hit rates and dates, specific numbers using a specific formula by a specific date, but there's no ability to get those numbers.
Yeah.
Now, this is only going to play out if there's a real restriction in where the numbers can come from. And we've kind of seen that in some of the laws.
We have, yeah.
That, okay, the data can only come from boom, can only go through boom. So there's that aspect that I'm not sure is quite right to be presented in the current lawsuit. But what is right is whether there's been an excessive amount of delegation of legislative authority to the Producer Responsibility Organization, who, as far as I can tell, I don't know what the mechanism to recall them. We can't vote them out of office because they're elected to implement this law.
And it's a cabal of CPGs, so consumer packaged good companies. That's
true.
pretty much what it is.
Very underrepresented in the durable world.
Yes.
And so it is going to be fascinating, but as you sit through these advisory board hearings,
painful.
Generally there'll be a period where it opens up for public comment and, everyone can, state their piece. And a consistent message that I've been hearing, and it's from the environmental NGOs, is a threat of a lawsuit. Pretty much many, many statements. You can't put in these exceptions for health and safety because that will be inconsistent with the legislative intent, legislative intent is an illusion.
Yeah.
And you'll hear it come
What's
up
in the law, what is written in the law is what.
And it'll be, oh, well, the main sponsor wrote a letter after the law was passed and told us what he wished he could have passed, which is basically what they're doing.
Yeah. It's like, well, you didn't pass it. Like this, the FDA exception that came out for SB 54. So they came out and said, well, if this package is covered by FDA regulations, then it's accepted. People lost their ever-loving minds after that. And the bill sponsor came out and said, that's not what I meant. Like, I don't give a damn if that's what you meant.
Maybe there was some nice government affairs person from some group who was telling you what the words actually said.
Yeah.
What did you do? You said, no, I like what these people over here at Beyond Plastic are telling me.
Yeah. Which, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, there was an article on Beyond Plastics that was talking about how it's just a dark money front because it's not an actual 501c3. It's it's a part of the college. And because of that, they can hide where the money comes from because they don't have any public reporting. So, that there's some paper companies, there's metal companies, and everybody else that are dumping money into that because that's more money for them.
Yeah.
And that's why 501c3s have to report where the money comes from.
Yeah. And I did dig into that. And it's Bennington College, and it's the Kappa Center for something.
Yeah. Sustainable.
Is a professor there. She offers courses in
like once a semester, and it's like 2 weeks.
How to be an activist.
And what is her background anyway?
Well,
like she's not a scientist. She's worked at the EPA.
Yep. And we hear it all the time. Former
administrator.
EPA or whatever.
It's like me, if I was the secretary of EPSIA, me saying that, former administrator at EPSIA. Yeah, okay. What does that mean? That means nothing.
But it does mean something, but it probably doesn't.
She was appointed.
It ain't all that.
No.
But it is. I mean, I've never been former administrator of the EPA.
Would you want to?
It's I know that they are recruiting. So
Until they fire you after a couple of weeks.
sorry.
That's a different argument altogether. Yeah.
But it's so yeah, we did do some digging into that.
I just think
Right,
there's
right.
so much hatred for our product specifically. And I'm gonna talk specifically polystyrene.
Okay.
That's just so misplaced. I think the argument is that it's not recyclable. Okay, why do they think it's not recyclable? Because it's not accepted in curbside
It's not
in
being
most places. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's getting recycled. Like all of your drop-off locations, like 700 plus drop-off locations on the map that you guys are keeping on your website?
EPSIndustry.org.
EPSindustry.org. And on there's a recycling map that you can click on. And if you're wherever, you just put on there where your city is, and it'll tell you everywhere you can take all your EPS foam and what people will call styrofoam,
Mhm.
which you can't call styrofoam because styrofoam is a insulation panel. It's not even the transport
that's
packaging that
about-
we're talking about.
I'm
That's a
working
different
to
argument.
make sure they preserve their trademark. in that.
Yes.
It's-
Yeah, we're all for protecting other people's trademarks. That's not what we're doing. You may call it styrofoam, but that's not what it is.
Right.
So the other thing that I find interesting is people will be like, well, drop off, that shouldn't count as recycling. And I'll say, well, only 7% of all recycling that happens in the US goes through your curbside. Why on God's green earth are we going to use the curbside as the only way something is recyclable?
Mhm.
Makes no sense. The amount of recycling that happens B2B, B2C,
Mhm.
and then drop-off locations, it's just so stupid that we're even having this discussion, but so many people don't understand what goes into recycling. Even people in organizations that are supposed to be protecting the recycling industry don't know a damn thing about these drop-off models
Yeah.
or
and
how
that-
they work.
And that misinformation, the equating bin recyclable with recyclable, I mean, that's the deficit I start with.
Yeah.
With every communication. Oh, but you're not recyclable. And then there was Betsy found something, it was Sierra Club. And it might be old or not, but it's a straight up mischaracterization of the recyclability of the material and then the other thing I think is goofy, and this whole, I think circular, I wouldn't mind if bin recyclable was a badge that you achieved and limited, and I think there'd be some, well, in the last administration, I think there would have been support from the EPA and certainly a California SB 343 if you could disassociate it with 54.
Yeah.
That bin recyclable badge, it recognizes that system has solved very few problems, and that system is not the ultimate destination for our waste reduction or, as it's called, circularity challenges. And the other problem that I have with this recent communication out of Sierra Club is this judgmental concept of downcycling.
Yeah, I can't stand
It's
it.
and I was meeting with staffers back when Break Free from Plastic Pollution was introduced. And in that 267-page bill, there's one form of one material that the EPA administrator has no options but to ban. 267-page bill. One of the complaints about that bill was that the EPA administrator had too much discretion, but zero discretion when it came to expanded polystyrene. Shall ban. Okay. So I was talking to him, and we went through all that, and I told him where we are with our recycling and dispelled some of the misunderstandings, and they were receptive. And then I asked him at the end of the meeting, I was like, so you guys are good with expanded polyethylene, expanded polypropylene, the polyurethanes, polyisocyanate. You're good with all those foams. And you could clearly tell they had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, why did you just pick this one? And they look at each other and they said, oh, man, it's the circularity thing. And that same staffer later was actually at the UN, said that that his perception, it was actually the administration, perception and definition of recycling is turning the thing back into the thing. Same thing.
So that means OCC recycling isn't recycling.
Got to be
cardboard is not going back into cardboard. It's going into some other kind of paper.
And if you can take a material, keep it out of the landfill, and maybe it doesn't become a direct food contact qualified material, but it becomes something that's incorporated into a building that might sit there for 60 or 100 years. So it's not a circle, it's kind of a spiral, entropy and all that. And yeah, at some point, there may be no other commercial use for that thing. Yeah. Can we just declare victory that if I take this piece of packaging that just comes along with the product and you've got it for free, whatever, I'm going to turn that into something and park it for 60 years? Can we declare victory and say, yes, I've achieved it, without disparaging that a park bench is of lesser value than a water bottle?
I don't think you'll ever win that argument. I hate to say it, but I think that's a fact. I think there's such a misunderstanding about how recycling works.
Yeah.
Just full stop.
Yeah. And it is. And
paper recycling, metal recycling, glass recycling, that rarely happens in the U.S. Plastic recycling, which doesn't happen enough in the U.S. Let's be clear. We need more plastic recycling. But nobody understands how any of those things work. They've obviously never been to a recycled paper mill to watch that OCC come back in, be repulped, and then made into new paper, because that new paper, that fiber breaks down over time.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to just continually do that. So you're going to have new trees at some point to become paper again.
Right. And
that's not a problem if we're doing it the right way and we're actually recycling, because double the amount of paper goes into the landfill every year than plastics, because so much paper is being consumed and people don't recycle enough.
Well, and back to the MRF and the landfill. So a lined, monitored, well-regulated landfill, there may be materials in there that would present a challenge if they were just allowed to mingle with the groundwater, but it's not the plastic. So we get
batteries that people are throwing in there. You got once they get crushed. Yeah.
So you will hear in the same argument, it lasts forever, and then and it breaks down into toxic materials. And it's like, well, which is it?
It can't be both. Yeah.
Or is it doing this?
And it's inert anyway. Plastics are inert once they're polarized.
Inert, long chain polymers. But what can we do as it loops back to the collective guilt that we should all have? And you had mentioned it earlier, with the food insecurity and the challenge that we've got as the population on the planet goes above 8 billion. Most of those billions don't live like we do.
No.
There's no reason and we are not in a position to say, well, we made some mistakes and you can't live like we do.
Yeah. You better live differently than we do.
Yeah. And we're sorry about that, but no.
You're never going to get to live like we do. We're going to continue doing what we're doing, but you guys can't do that.
Yeah, we're sorry. This was a bad idea.
Yeah, just look at China. China, now that there's money there, every Chinese citizen consumes a lot that are on the high end of the spectrum. You've got some really poor people, and then you got some really rich people. if you look at just the consumption that's happening in China now, which is kind of an intended consequence of the way that they run their economy and their government, because they want consumption, because consumption means economic growth, which means they can always get their 5% economic growth every year, and they can hit it like clockwork. So these things, it's going to expand. And as India continues to grow and the population stays as large as it is, and it's becoming ever more populous, and now there's more money, there's going to be more consumption. And it's just the same everywhere. We as a race of people, or like not a race, it's just a species.
Okay.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. As a species, we need to stop consuming so much crap.
Well, also coming down Route 3 today, there's construction going on, and they're building a very large storage facility. And you see them everywhere, and it's where you're not, so desirable.
That's where my
Little
Christmas
properties.
decorations are, my whatever.
It's going to be, right, it is a storage facility. And it's it's just fascinating to look at that and to realize that there are those big commercial buildings that are ubiquitous, and they are full of stuff that people have admitted they don't need, but they have to pay to put it somewhere. And it's a terrifying problem. But and then, talking about solutions, and this is sort of the more cynical assessment of the battle that we're engaged with every day. And it's something, so when I was practicing law, and you have two sides, and you go in and you present, and somebody decides or not or whatever. And there was all this stuff about the loss of collegiality in the profession, blah, blah, blah. This sector, there is zero collegiality.
Yes.
There is zero. I mean, and if I was in Pennsylvania and it was a food service ban, and we don't work on food service bans so much anymore, but we were all up there and we were getting ready to have a hearing. And I said, hey, where's the other side? In Pennsylvania, they have a committee structure where the other side doesn't get invited, and when I saw the other side wasn't there, I jokingly said, hey, do you want me to do their part? Because I could.
I got it down. Yeah, I've heard it everywhere I've gone for the last
and they can do
10
mine.
years. Yeah.
But you know what? And my point is that of all the people on the planet, there are some people that have read all the reports and are familiar with how MRFs work and have been to the landfill and do know the challenges and know the good and the bad.
Yeah.
But we don't talk to each other because
At all.
From the cynicism is if you look at the financial structure, and I don't think this applies across the board, but I kind of saw it at the UN where industry was there and they were saying things that would indicate there's going to be some sacrifices and some ability to change the way things are happening. I'm talking transparency. I'm talking commitments to reducing commitments from real commitments from industry, money for cleanup. But rather than grab onto that and go, fantastic, great step, let's do it, let's work together, let's solve the problem. It wasn't
enough.
We want more. That's not enough.
Compromise in these scenarios is, I think just compromise in general is dead at this point because of our soundbite culture and social media and the way that we do things. So if I'm an NGO and my entire goal is to get beyond plastics and get rid of plastics, and then I came back to my constituency and I said, you know what? we didn't get rid of all plastics, but we got them to pay for cleanup. You know what those people are going to say to me?
You failed?
Gave up. You
You
didn't do
gave up.
what you were supposed to do. And ultimately, the way democracy works, and the only way that it works, is if you compromise, because nobody's ever going to get everything that they want. Now, there are certain things like, hey, thou shalt not kill. Yeah, you're going to get what you want if you don't want murder. Okay, that kind of thing makes sense.
Okay.
But packaging, you're not going to get everybody to agree that we need to not have packaging, because I'd say most Americans just don't care. They honestly don't care.
And I think that's another challenge that we've got. We have so there, and I don't think other countries have this problem to the same extent. It's not that we have like gradations of commitment to responsible use of resources and conservation and good waste management. We've like people hostily opposed.
Yeah.
And hostily in support.
Yeah.
And, you know,
climate change is a fraud. Like, you know how many times, like, I'll put shorts from this show on YouTube, and the amount of times people come back to me and they're like, hey, climate change denier. I'm like, what did I even say about climate change in that whole thing? Just because I'm pro plastics in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, then now I'm a climate change denier. There are people out there that deny it. Not me. I didn't say that.
And that's not really the question.
Yeah.
You know, whether the effects are going to be, you know, the degree of the impact of CO2 emissions, and then the ultimate effect of that. It's got an impact. And I think that's something, you know, when you look at resources that say, oh, what can I do to lower my impact? And, you know, one of them is, okay, well, skip right to the natural cremation and just do that. And that's the most effective way for you to reduce your impact. And the next one, don't have children. Next one after that,
don't fly anywhere.
Total vegan. Oh my God,
Yeah.
don't fly anywhere. And, you know, you're going through all that. And even I used to commute to work by bicycle until my people said, you can't do that. You're going to get killed and murdered. So you have to stop. You cannot be, which I conceded to. I'm like, okay, all right, you got a point. So I'll get in a car where I could still be murdered, but you won't work.
It's a little more difficult. They got to break in.
But even that impact, kill your car and use a bicycle for all your transportation. I'm not saying don't do it, but ain't a whole lot. Not a big delta there on your impact. And I think a lot of that comes back to a lack of a really, really deep understanding of science, entropy, impact, reality. Okay, clothing. Oh my God. Way overconsumption.
Yeah.
Clean them, all that
Shein
stuff.
and Temu and all these things where you can just get junk clothes shipped in and you wear them once and they fall apart. Now it's waste.
Yeah.
And I went on a rant on fast fashion a couple months ago on one of these episodes. I don't think we need to do that again, but yes, I agree. We don't need to buy as much clothes as we do.
No, and it is, it's bad. So, no, but we're also, our son and his wife, they're golf pros, teaching pros, and there's a golf shop. And if it doesn't sell, and it, you know, off it goes.
It probably goes overseas, right? Probably goes to Africa or somewhere
right
else. Oh, you get it. That's a little better than just dumping it onto foreigners, which happens a lot. Like after every Super Bowl, you see all the people wearing like the Super Bowl winning shirts for the team that lost.
Other people, okay. Yeah. Well,
And
and
that
it's,
kind of stuff happens all the time. We got to stop doing that.
yeah. And but and it kind of sounds, so a lot of it's like we need to do something, but
Somebody else needs to do it.
yeah, right over here.
Yeah.
Which
No
is,
personal responsibility. And then the argument will come back, be like, well, the plastics industry needs to own it and they need to solve it. Like, okay,
yeah,
I see some validity in what you're saying. I'm not saying that, because there are people that'll be like, well, if people just recycle, then we're going to solve our problems. I don't think either of us are saying that.
no,
I
'cause
think
there,
what we're saying is reduce your consumption
yeah, there's an
and
impact.
recycle. It's
Yeah.
like there's your hierarchy of reduce, reuse what you can, and then recycle. There's a reason why it's an inverted triangle.
Mhm.
But at the same time, please be involved in recycling. Now, corporations are still dumping products into the market that are going to last 2 weeks and then get thrown away. I'm not even talking packaging. I'm talking like toys at McDonald's. The amount of junk that you get,
Right.
like
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
this came up. I was in Canada meeting with their Department of Commerce. And we dipped it, and I did some research before I got there. And Canada is a big importer. Yeah, I'm trying to like, okay, where's the EPS? Okay. They're a big importer of cut flowers, which come in EPS.
Yeah.
And so we had an opportunity to talk about the unnecessary part of problematic and unnecessary. And I was like, cut flowers. People are going to say that might not be necessary.
Yeah. We probably
And
don't need to do that. Like
right, you kind of, yeah. I mean, we don't need.
wrapping cucumbers in plastics. I get in trouble for this. I'm going to say it again. If we are importing cucumbers from somewhere far enough that you need to wrap it in plastics to make it last long enough,
Yeah.
you're importing it from too friggin' far.
Yeah.
Please
Oh,
stop
well,
doing that.
And it 100%. And we don't, I mean, a kiwi, strawberries year round, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Um,
These are
right.
things we don't need.
Now we're going to get flambéed by the cut flower people.
I don't care.
No, but
These are facts.
so from whether or not cut flowers are necessary, the next thing we said was glitter.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but for somebody, it's like, oh no, if I gotta have glitter. If I don't have glitter, don't
Did you
use
see Newsom a lot? Like he rejected the ban on glitter in makeup, and the NGOs are going haywire because they're like, you could have banned microplastics in makeup, but I'm sure there's a reason why he said no to that. I don't think it was just cost. I think it's because the bill was written poorly.
Oh
It
yeah,
was probably going to impact more than just
yeah,
what it was, but that's not the headline. That's not
No.
the sound bite
right.
that people hear. The sound bite is there was an ability to get rid of microplastics in makeup and you didn't do it.
Yeah.
You sell out. I'm like, well,
Well,
you don't even understand what the heck we're talking about. So
that's
don't
what
get
you're being
involved.
read. You know, you get these like the New York EPR bill.
A disaster.
It came in with a list of 17 chemicals
Yeah.
that shall be banned at some point. There was one on there that had PS in it. It was an acronym. I forget exactly what it was. But I'm meeting with the legislators. And I'm like, what is this? I have talked to my industry. Nobody knows what this is.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what this is? And it was basically, it came out, but it was either they didn't interpret it, whatever they were told to put in there from Judith Hank, or, I mean, who knows?
Well, Judith Hank probably didn't understand what the heck it was either.
And it just got thrown in. It may well just have been a straight up mistake, but
Probably not. Probably not.
that's the one. It's like, oh no, we're going to ban it. We're going to make sure this is going. Well, what is this?
And that's their expert. That's the person that they go to.
Yeah. And without
doesn't understand plastics. She has no clue.
Well, then okay. So I sent this over earlier, and this is from National Geographic, and that table is
It's like your aromatics, your olefins and everything, and like where it comes
Yeah,
from.
so the top is minerals, ores, fossil fuels, biomass.
Okay.
And that's the fossil fuels, that includes fuels and lubricants.
Gasoline. Yeah.
And then some of it gets made into stuff. With talking back to the consumption, if we're going to keep the consumption the same, what column do you want to put that in, that you're moving out of that?
Yeah.
And
It's got to go into something.
And is it going to be a net improvement, reduction in our impact? And that is a discussion that I never hear made.
Like, because they don't understand. You just said it. They don't understand. And it's not anybody's fault. This is complicated stuff. This is not straightforward. GHG, LCAs, all of this stuff is not simple. I've been playing in this space for 12 years, and I still am not even close to an expert. I'm nowhere near
and even
an expert.
Well,
And these people have talked for 5 minutes, and they feel like they're an expert. It's like the whole, what is it, the Dunning-Kruger, like the Mount Stupid, and then it goes to the Valley of Despair, and then the sustainability plateau or whatever.
No,
They're all on Mount Stupid, but they're not even at the top of Mount Stupid. They're on their way to the top of Mount Stupid.
Well, and then, so I don't know if I would agree with your assessment. I think your 12 years have definitely created something, but what we need to keep in mind is there are so many, many, many levels of this.
Yeah.
And if, right before we wind up retiring or doing something else, we finally get off Mount Stupid, there's an entire mountain range.
Yeah, there's other stuff.
We don't know.
Exactly.
It has an interplay with all this stuff.
Too many people are so confident in what they think and believe. And I think this also goes back to social media. I saw there was a discussion back and forth on how it is that Republicans can believe what they believe when all they have to do is go on social media and they can see all the bad things that they're doing. And then the person came back to that and said, you think Republicans on social media are getting the same algorithm, the same feed of information that you are? They're getting a completely different set of facts that has all been curated by the algorithm to like confirm their biases.
Yeah.
That is the way social media works. So you're not even getting both sides of the argument unless you really go out of your way to find both sides of the argument, or you talk to people that disagree with you. That's the only time you're going to get both sides of the argument, because if you're just looking at social media for your news, you're going to get one side of the story and that's it.
Yeah.
And you will never get both sides of the story, and you will stay on Mount Stupid for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody's listening to this and you're getting your news from social media, you got to step outside of that box and you got to look elsewhere.
Well,
you have to be expansive in where you're getting your information.
There is not an excuse, because you can, my news feeds will be, I like Wall Street Journal because they're all about the money.
Mm-hmm.
And and then Al Jazeera, which is not, the ranting lunatics or whatever.
On both sides here, because you got like MSNBC or Fox News, like there's no middle ground. You don't get clicks if you're in the middle.
No, and there's but if you have that and understanding, the Wall Street Journal perspective, that it's coming from the money. It's kind of like when you go to, I was just in Las Vegas, I'm going back there and walking through a sports book, and you look up and there's no emotion on those lines. That's just really smart people using really sophisticated programs to figure out what the score is going to be, who's going to win, and by how much.
so
And-
they can make money, not so you can make money,
Right,
so
fine.
they can make money.
and absolutely just mind-bogglingly good. And I'm not going to dip into any kind of conspiracies or fix games or anything, but that's when the emotion and the support for your terps comes out of it. And they're just like, nope, you're going to lose by 3. No, we're not, because God is on our side or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
And you will lose by 3.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's, so anyway, that's a nice filter for Wall Street Journal. They
Yeah.
come with that. And then the other, it's like, in watching Al Jazeera, it's every day, well, now that the ceasefire is kind of going away, every 70 people killed, 67 people killed, 108 people killed every
Nobody's talking about that here.
day.
Yeah.
And it is, so they're not, and that, just to keep in mind that there is a news reporting outlet that is just radically different in their reporting.
There's an app out there somewhere. I forget what it was called. I think it's just called The News or something like that, where it gives you a headline. It gives you a story, and then it shows you the headlines and a blurb from every single major journalistic organization.
Okay.
So then that way you can get a feel for how it's playing depending on their slant from a political
Okay,
side.
so the Christian Science Monitor is touted as super neutral, but it's brutal and it's so hard to read.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It doesn't have any of the sensationalism in it.
Yeah, just boring.
Right? Yeah, it's just too boring.
That's why people run to the social media, because they see funny TikToks or funny memes that are telling a story and driving the discussion, but they don't feel like it. They don't feel like they're being indoctrinated. And that's the kind of stuff happens. This has nothing to do with plastics at this point, other
No,
than
I think it has to do with our
how people look at it.
terms.
Yeah.
And that, okay, so, and this actually happened with a colleague, and he had poison ivy, or I had poison, so whatever, somebody's got poison ivy, and he says, oh, well, don't pop the blisters because you'll be able to, that'll give people poison ivy. And I'm like, wait, do you think I brush up against poison ivy and I develop this superpower that I can now produce toxins in this blister? Do you really think that's what's going on here? Right? That's really cool. If it
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's like
when
you've been
thought
bit by a
about it, we're
spider.
like,
You're
yeah,
Spider-Man, but with poison ivy.
right, that doesn't make sense. And that's kind of what's missing.
Yeah.
So you talk about not talking about plastic, oh yeah, your poison ivy blisters, you are now a producer of poison ivy toxin.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's like the conversations that we have with regulators. We're like, well, styrene can kill you. So yeah, if you drink it, don't do that.
Well,
Don't do that.
and
And then the residual styrene in your packaging is minimal. It's like 10,000 times less than the intake.
I did this in Washington State, where they have no metal detectors on the doors of their legislative building. And I was actually there on open carry day or open carry week, and there were dudes full camo, M16 looking things in the ground. It was, because usually I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sitting there, I'm in a suit, I'm like, no,
I don't like
you're
this.
not
Yeah.
looking at me going, yeah, that's our guy. He's one of us. No.
Yeah.
So that was pretty freaky. But because of that, I was able to go to West Marine and get a jar of styrene and say, this is styrene. I bought this at West Marine. And it's right on the shelf with paint thinner, turpentine, other things you shouldn't drink.
Yeah.
And here it is. And
nothing like the packaging that you're representing. It's completely different.
Oh, because it's recyclable and it's metal. Probably not.
Yeah.
But to get that, and then to show the legislator this red Solo cup, which you are probably, judging by your legislative record, you're probably massively familiar with this. is polystyrene.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so the plate at the 7-Eleven, I use this one all the time. You can take that extruded polystyrene plate or a meat tray or whatever. You can put the nachos, the cheese sauce, like the healthiest thing in that whole combo is probably the plate.
Yeah. It's not going to give you any kind of coronary later in
No,
life.
when you're telling me that this is too dangerous to package an outboard motor.
It's because people are sheep. They've been told that this stuff is dangerous, and everybody is so afraid. I had a discussion on the last episode that just published about we are so insulated from danger and death in this country that we have to find things to be afraid of. And I think plastics have become our current scapegoat.
Okay.
The things to be worried about. No, there's things about plastics that we can do better.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about something that's going to kill you tonight if you touch it. That's the kind of crap that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And we're at an hour and 30 minutes of this discussion. I have never done an hour and a half episode because I guarantee you people are like, I can't listen to more than 45 minutes of Justin talking. So, but I do give everybody that comes on here last word. If there's anything we haven't covered, you want to talk a little bit about EPSIA, how people can get in touch with you, maybe who's a good target for somebody that you guys would want to work with, that kind of stuff.
What I'm really happy with lately is the number of communities that have contacted me about, hey, we want to do a drop off.
Yes. How
do we do it? And it kind of came out of the blue. So you can shoot me an email, WREITER@EPSindustry.org.
Yep. And we'll put it in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah.
So
and a couple of really nice developments. I got a call from the mayor of Sykesville, Maryland. And then, and I told her a little bit about, why don't you come down and see University Park? They started their program not too long ago. Give you a good idea as to what it is as you start training up your people as to what we can do. And then, we'll go from there. And so then she set up a meeting with Carroll County, with the bigger entity. And the guy from Carroll County, very perceptive as to, hey, these are the limitations and this is how much, and this is there, and this is how much space we have. These are the resources we have. I can't ask my people to do one more thing, which is pretty common. They have the land, but they didn't have the personnel to add one more thing. So he came in with a lot of reality. And so she did come down to one of the events this weekend, and she's like, well, I don't care, I'm doing it. I'm like,
yeah,
girl, mayor. And she is, and she's going to do it. Yep. And we're going to do it, and we're going to figure it out.
And we're going to, as an industry, we're going to keep fighting to recycle more EPS, more rigid plastics, more rigid polystyrene, more anything polystyrene, because we got to change the narrative that our products are not recyclable, because you guys proved that you can do it. Your industry has proved that you can do it. 31% recycle rate for EPS transport packaging.
And it's, and I'm really, and I had a meeting with Hyattsville a year ago, and Hyattsville called me 3 weeks ago and said, hey, remember we were talking about that land we bought right next to our place? Well, we've got it, and we are going to launch a depot program that's going to include EPS and flexibles and who knows, probably paint,
anything else that needs to be dropped off. Yeah.
And we're going to end that. And then the irony there is that also in my Maryland suburbs project, which is what I'm calling it because it's the DC suburbs, there's Montgomery County. And Montgomery County, I'm looking at you. I have told you, your neighbors over in Prince George's County are doing this, but you're not doing it because it doesn't fit in with your narrative.
Yeah.
That the material cannot be handled responsibly and turned back into Because there are responsible end markets, there are ways to keep these materials out of the landfill and keep them in commerce, to get these things back in and to keep using these carbons. Because really, remember what we always hear, plastics last forever, they never go away. Well, the flip side of that is we can use them forever too.
Yeah. We can keep making EPS transport packaging as long as we can collect it and recycle it. But we got to collect it. That's the thing. That's the thing you guys are doing. You guys are doing a great job at it.
Yeah, you look at the places where it's functioning really well, and there is a bit of commitment and dedication from the citizens, but they're also the people that have the material and bought the toaster, the computer,
The 96-inch TV.
So the e-waste that you watch sports on, but that commitment and that personal responsibility. So back from my days of representing builders and developers, if you want to build a community, you have to prove that there's adequate public facilities to support that. You playgrounds, sidewalks, sewer, power, road access, schools, etc. I would not be opposed to some exploration of that, and this is applying more globally. You want to go into a market, part of the adequate public facility before you go into that market is to make sure you're not creating a waste problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in Nairobi for the Global Plastic Treaty and talking to some of the local leaders, disposable diapers, huge problem. So what are we going to do? Say, oh, you can't have disposable diapers? Or are we going to say, well, you can sell your disposable diapers here, but you need to make sure we've got the infrastructure to handle
like an EPR system.
And that's sort of an extended producer responsibility thing, which I think from an equitable standpoint, completely valid.
Yeah, I agree. The EPR, as long as it's done right, is what I keep saying. If it's fair, it's balanced, and it gives people, if it's a level playing field for all products.
Because you're packaging immediately and your product eventually, you've externalized the cost of disposal.
Yeah.
And if we want to take that on, if you think about like, okay, well, where do we even get waste management? And it was, back in the day when you're throwing your chicken bones and your human waste out the window. It's like, wait a minute, this is a public health concern. But at some point, we've taken the product delivery and we've put that burden on as a collective burden on all of us. So if my neighbor or if I'm buying a whole bunch of stuff and I've got all this packaging and it's sitting there and I'm putting it in my waste, whatever, recycling or landfill, that's not fair for my neighbor who, doesn't make as much trash as I do.
Yeah.
So it does make sense to link the packaging and the product to the person. And we mattresses, tires, paint, it is there. But this kind of targeting of just the plastics under the EPRs is either do everything or let's do it one at a time.
Yeah. I agree with that. So for anybody that's in the EPS industry that is not part of EPSIA, that's doing transport packaging, you're missing out. You guys need to be a part. You need to support it because the industry is doing great things. You're making recycling happen. You're defending the industry in a way that I don't think a lot of other industry groups are. And so that's my 2 cents. If you're in the industry and you're not there,
because that's really valid. If your sales folks are out there and you're getting questions, you can contact us and we can get you something to respond to that challenge. Yeah. And running an association, it's sort of like a church. Do we want you in the pews? Do we want you get putting into the box every week. Oh yeah. Can we have a church if that doesn't happen? No, we cannot have a church if that doesn't happen. But if you need the resources of the church, we will do an exorcism even if you are not a member of the parish.
You are supporting the community one way or the other.
Yeah.
We're
convinced.
I am looking forward to continuing our close working relationship between the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance and the EPS industry. I think that's been a huge success in year one of our organization is the amount of support that you all have given us and really just a collaboration, I think has been huge. And I've really, really appreciated what we've done so far working together. And I'm really looking forward to the future.
Well,
and
you
continue to do it.
recognized, we are limited with, like everybody, size and money or time and money. And I'm a big supporter of let's just do it. But thank God I've got my director keeping a lid on it and making sure, because you can charge off in a bad direction.
Yeah, you really can.
And then, one of the things, if we launch a program, if we put it in, it's got to work, and it will work. And we do our homework to make sure it works, because if it doesn't work, we'll be hearing about that for 25 years.
Exactly. Because we've already got the bullseye on our backs. Yeah. One misstep is all somebody needs to be able to just hammer you. But anyway, hour and 45 minutes of talking EPS. I love it. But at the same time, want to make sure that people are listening all the way through. But for Walter, this is Justin Riney. This has been Redefining Plastics, and everybody have a great night.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
If you want to learn more about the plastics industry, recycling, check out these other videos. Please like and subscribe.